over in the States. This is the Winning Edge podcast, and we are back for another episode. How is life, my friend?
It's good, mate. That was a good intro. That was just off the top of your head. That was impressive. As soon as the fucking countdown stops when I start on this and have to do an intro, everything goes fucking wrong. Like, that's
yeah. Well, we've decided it's me doing that now.
Yeah,
you know. So
I'm not. I don't. Yeah, my intro is pretty much. We'd have to do a pre-recorded intro, and then that's how a professional podcast would do it, and then that's added and edited in. But we're not. We're not doing that.
Well, we always said we were just going to talk off the cuff, didn't we? And we've remained true to that. But we did agree I'd sort of do the intros, and then after my first, because I didn't practice that intro and I haven't got it written down or anything like that. But then earlier on this week, I did my first ever where I was the host and MC of a gig, so about 90 people, 100 people at this gig, so I'm a presenter now, obviously. I've done it once.
Well, you are. You've done how many presentations have you done?
Hundreds.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah. So hundreds of obviously seminars and hundreds of keynotes and all that kind of stuff. And then I've been to loads of presentations and loads of events where I've handed out an award or gave a little speech and all that kind of stuff. But this was actually hosting the whole evening.
Right.
So I was co-host with a bit of a British Olympic hockey athlete legend. Yeah, she's won a European. A bronze at Olympics, and then she won a gold at Olympics 2016. She's nearly played nearly 300 times for GB and all that kind of stuff. So a bit of a legend. So to co-host was great. So obviously I'm now a host.
But I imagine there's a lot more homework to do for something like that than people realise. Coming on and doing the snippets and introducing people and having enough background to introduce that person or whatever, and remembering it for a start, making sure you get your stats right and whatnot. That would be difficult.
Well, the Access Sport, they're called, which is the charity that hosted the event, they were brilliant, and they did all that for us. They did all the research, they did all the stats, they did all the scripts. We helped with the scripts, but they did a lot of the legwork. But even still, the emails to and froing, and like you say, the comms and the calls, and it was a lot of effort and a lot of work. And actually, as much as there was a bit of energy used in hosting the evening, and I then did the charity auction as well, so I was proper like hustling people to. And it was a bit of a slow start with the auction, so I had to get a bit of the old Mancunian charm, hustle going and all that kind of stuff. So even though it used a bit of energy on the night, it actually, you're right, compared to the energy that it took to get to the night, it took a lot of effort to get there. But it was good experience. And as I say, obviously, because I've done it once, I'm now a host.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to start teaching other people how to host.
I'm gonna set that. I'll have a program. Yeah, I'll have a program set up by next week.
Yeah, exactly. You're having another Instagram page.
Yeah. No, fucking hell. I've got enough of them. I definitely won't.
3, 4? Fucking hell, it's crazy.
1, 2, 3, 5, I think. 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
not all about me, obviously, just about the different events, the different... So one's for Charity Boxing Nights, one's for a Reset 24 Summit, which is a new event I'm launching, maps coaching, mentoring, and my personal page, 5. Oh, and this, 6.
And this one, which I've just, my phone's just been going off with last week's fucking episode out now, just so you all know. We'll post some stuff about that later. What else has been going on in your life?
So, same old, really. Just a busy kind of week. And we touched on it off air in terms of, we've talked in the past about how you have to adapt training with age and how you have to change your body and or look after your body with age. So I've been struggling with a really bad back for a few months, quite resistant because, as we've talked about, enjoying kickboxing and all that kind of stuff. But, in its essence, this podcast is about performance, isn't it? And getting the winning edge and all that kind of stuff. And I think my back has been a great example of it, because the slow, arduous, boring rehab that I don't really get any feedback from. I don't really feel like you're getting anywhere from. You don't want to do that. Yeah, what you want to do is the fun stuff, the punching pads and kicking pads and sparring and all that kind of stuff. But that has to be built on that foundation, doesn't it? Of looking after your body and looking after your back and all that. So I've kind of been doing brilliant with it for a good 6 months after my back went. So I've been looking after my back for 6 months. It's been getting better. It's been getting stronger. So guess what? I stopped doing it all. Tried to do some running, which I've been advised by all the specialists to not do any running. And I've spent 3 days lay on my back in fucking agony with these disc pain and neural pain all down my arse and my legs and my feet and everything. So
I think the irony is, though, like, apart from football, you've never liked running.
no,
I've known you for about 20 years. You've never liked running.
no.
Like, it's not been a thing. I always find it ironic that when we do get injuries, we sometimes go towards the thing we've never really liked it anyway.
Yeah, because you know you can't do it. Yeah.
I just want to be able to do it, which is, I'm no good with that stuff. I miss things that I wasn't even doing, but now I can't do it because I'm injured or something. I get frustrated and I want to try those things just to see if I can still do it, which is
fucking stupid, isn't it? Yeah, do as we say, not as we do. Yeah, you're right. I've never been a runner. I've never enjoyed it. But now, because I'm 45, I'm exploring 10Ks and all that shit and half marathons, and the reality is I'm probably just going to have to leave it alone.
But well, I think we want to challenge ourselves with things, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's, I think when you've got, probably leads us into talking about managing, I guess, things like your injury, which we haven't discussed, is like a slip disc, which is something that's not particularly 100% fixable like a normal injury. This is something that now you've got to kind of manage, without anyway to actually put the disc back in or something. This is now something you'll manage for the rest of your life. And I think there's a lot of things that, exactly like you said, whether it be mentally or physically, we actually have to manage. It's not a fix or a fixable. We find solutions to either work around it, work through it, or do things that keep that issue at bay, or allow you to perform despite whatever the issue is, right? And I think there's two ways of looking at things when it comes to that sort of stuff. Is like the mentality of when you get some sort of diagnosis, like you did with the slip disc, let's say, then knowing what that actually means for like you moving forward, and physical exercise. You've got two kind of options, right? And that's like, you can either use it as an excuse to do nothing and be like, well, I can't do all these things because I have a slip disc, so what's the point?
Yeah.
Which is kind of that, I feel, victim mentality. And I'm seeing a lot of it in mental issues now as well, which I've never really come across. Or you come up with a plan, right? Okay, I have this thing. It might limit me here, and here, but I still want to achieve, X, Y, and Z. I still want to, you still want to be physical.
Yeah.
You still want to be successful. You still want to look a certain way. And you find a way of managing that and a path to still achieve everything you want. And I think it's, an interesting topic, because I think, my question, or something I've been thinking about recently, is everyone's a little different, right? And I think, is the diagnosis a good thing for everybody? Right? Being told what the problem is and now knowing you've got to deal with it forever versus not really knowing what the problem is and just kind of blindly, if you are a more positive person, finding ways to work around it regardless of knowing what the issue is. And I bring that up because this week, and I won't go into too much detail because, it was more of a work issue, but mental kind of issues. So I don't know, I'm noticing a lot more, like ADHD has become a really big thing, right? I probably didn't segue into that very, very well there, but, I was thinking, like, it's the first time I've had experiences recently where younger people have used it as a reason as to why they can't X, Y, and Z, or why they're not concentrating, or why they're drifting off mid fucking conversations and things like this. And they'll be like, "Yeah, it's my ADHD," and you're like, "What?" And I've never come across it before. I've had conversations with people that know about ADHD, maybe even have ADHD, and when I've discussed the way I am, even, and the way, especially my education at school, they were like, they've actually told me they think I've got it or got some version of it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't got ADHD. But when I look back at my schooling and my education, I'm like, I was either all in or all out on everything.
Yeah.
We don't know what that meant back in our day.
Yeah.
And also the classes that I was in the lower tier classes for most of the things I wasn't interested in. So all of us probably had some of that because we all disrupted the class. None of us give a fuck and wanted to listen and learn, and we couldn't sit still for 30 minutes and listen to the teacher without wanting to play up. But back then, my brain was always like, well, that's just us being kids. I'm just not interested. Put me in a class where I was more interested, and I was actually in a higher set, and we all were a bit quieter, sat, listened, and so I always put that sometimes down to the teachers as well. But we didn't really know. I wouldn't know, and I still don't know. I wouldn't know if I have that. I just know I have difficulty learning things I don't like. I have difficulty having any attention span to something I'm not that interested in, even if it's something I kind of need to learn. So if I go on a broad spectrum of a course, even if it's to do with fitness, there will be bits I zone out on.
Yeah.
If I'm not that interested, and then there's other bits I'm back zeroed in like 100%. I don't know what that really is. Nowadays, people will class that as being diagnosed with ADHD, but what I'm coming across with when it comes to these sort of things, I don't know how many people you deal with or have dealt with, over the last few years where this has become a much bigger thing. I think about schools and how people are dealing with it, and what nightmare it must be sort of causing in some ways, because, I think giving it a label is kind of a blessing and a curse, dependent on the individual, right? Because you can use it as an excuse and be like, well, I just can't, I can't do these things or whatever. Or you go, okay, I have difficulty concentrating. I have difficulty learning certain things. I have difficulty doing X, Y, and Z. What is the best way for me to work around this? Now, if I go back to me and learning, I had to find ways that are better for me to learn. I know I learn better in person. I know I learn better. I can't read a fucking book to save my life, but I can listen to an audio book.
Yeah, but I mean that's just learning styles, though, isn't it?
I think so that's what I mean. And I'm not sure.
Where's the barriers here? This is a controversial. I'm not sure how we've got onto this, by the way. But you know what? Let's go with it. But this is controversial, isn't it? And
I don't think that helps the conversation, because depending on who's listening to this, could be very much opposing. Just to be clear, I don't have a view. I'm just finding out about this now from two sides, right? So let's say as a teacher or an educator or as an employer, now this is becoming a thing where your students or your employees or whatever are coming in and saying this is something they have and it might affect their performance.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult thing to manage.
It's a tough one. And to go back to what you were saying, it's like diagnosis is a great thing, and diagnosis helps us form a plan, doesn't it? And it helps us navigate a performance pathway onto a different pathway. You can pivot left or right or whatever. But then equally, the more you focus on something, then what is it that saying? Where focus goes, energy flows. And, the more I keep telling myself, going back to my back, I've got a couple of slip discs in my back, the more I'm focused on the fact that I'm in pain and the fact that I've got a couple of slip discs in my back. But if I'm just, I'm really interested in it. And you're right, is it that we've got better testing now? Because everybody seems to be ADHD now. Yeah, when I grew up, nobody was ADHD, or there was, the odd person here or there.
But I think we didn't know, and I think that's
maybe.
Kids were kids. You were like, kids have got short fucking attention span. That's just being a kid.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't just that. Maybe it was something else. But that's like even dyslexia was a big thing back in school. That was
it was when I was a kid as well. Yeah,
again, not many, but because not many were diagnosed. So maybe one or two kids out of fucking hundreds. But you think, looking back now, I wonder how many more maybe did have a form of dyslexia. Now we know more about it and what it actually causes. And it's not just jumbling up fucking letters. There's more to it, right?
Yeah. But, mate, the thing is, and I'm not diminishing any of these. We know experts, don't we? And maybe it's a good time to start introducing guests into this podcast now, because I know an expert in ADHD, someone who works in that field. I'm sure you probably do as well. And I'm not diminishing. My father suffers with his mental health. Mental health is in my family, and so I'm not diminishing. I'm very much like you. Do I have an opinion? Yes, but then do I have an opinion? No. In some ways, I only know what I think I know. But I think what's interesting is that everybody seems to be ADHD now, and what interests me is if I look at if I look at my back, if we go a step or two before that, and I've got a bad back. Well, if you spend all day sitting down, you're probably going to have a bad back. If you don't really train your glutes properly or train your core properly or whatever, you're going to have a bad back. What I'm saying is, if you elicit certain behaviours, you'll get a response.
Yeah.
And if you do positive actions and positive behaviours, you'll generally get a positive response. If you do not so positive actions, if you drink beer and eat cake all the time, you're going to get fat. It's not because you're big boned, which was one of the old sayings, wasn't it? It's my genetics, because my nana's granddad's auntie was fat, I'm fat. No, it's because
they overate as well.
you stuff cake in your mouth. That's Now there might be an emotional reason why you turn into food, and there might be some trauma and all that kind of. This is where it gets interesting, doesn't it? The layers get interesting, but I look in restaurants or in particular restaurants, coffee shops, whatever, where I still spend a lot of time in coffee shops, as you know. And parenting's hard, right? I know this, and it's hard because I've got Liam, and even parenting one child is difficult.
Yeah.
But when you've got 2 or 3 kids and they're all acting up and maybe encouraging each other to act up and all that kind of stuff, back in the day, old school parenting was very different, wasn't it? We've talked about this, and I don't always agree with some of those, methods, but it's far easier now to just shove an iPad or a phone in front of a 2-year-old kid that's full of flashing lights, it's full of stimulants, it's full of stuff that's going to activate the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. It's full of stuff that's going to give them that little spike of sort of dopamine, that little spike of all the goodness into their brain, and it's super fucking addictive, yeah? So it's that addictive then that from 2 years old, we're training these kids to almost be, and I've seen it with kids in my family, and they're like zombies when they're on these things. And listen, I'm not judging anyone, by the way. Parenting's hard, and we've got stress, and I get it. It's just easier to find a quick solution, and there's a quick solution. Years ago, those quick solutions weren't available. And there we go. Little kid, little Johnny's screaming, or little, whoever, he's screaming in the middle of the shop. It's a bit embarrassing. The other 2 kids are tear-assing round as well. Just have the iPad, it'll shut you up. But as I always say, short-term pleasure, when repeated long enough, takes you to long-term pain. Yeah. And I just wonder if some of you, and I'm not, I don't know, I just wonder, particularly with ADHD, I think, autism might be a different, dyslexia might be different, certain mental health conditions might be different. I just wonder if our lifestyles are contributing, not causing, contributing. And the fact is now people are like fucking zombies to the smartphone. The smartphone's making people not very smart.
Yeah, so you'll post on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I'm done. I just look at these digital screens, these games, mate, Fortnite and all that, where it's constantly like bah, 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 bah.
I think that the difference, like you actually make a really good point, and I've never thought about this. I mean, look, whatever we term, like say, especially something like ADHD, which has got, I guess, many layers and levels to it. When we were kids, I guess you're right. Actually, things moved a lot slower. If you look at like technology, but if I go back to my day, if I look at technology between the age of like 10 and 20 years old, I didn't move that much. And we just did what we did. Like whether I had an attention span to it or not was kind of very much like, do I really enjoy doing it or not? Right. And it was hard to be drawn, I guess, in too many different directions because there was only so much shit to do.
Because there wasn't, there wasn't. That's what I'm saying.
But looking at things, nowadays, like you said, and we know because we get drawn into it, I can be doing fucking 6-7 things at once on my phone.
Yeah.
I can be trying to fucking type some sort of fucking message out. I can be doing an email. My fucking Instagram can be popping off all over the place.
Yeah.
Not that pops off that much. I don't have that many followers. But there's everything's flashing up and down, and now it's like this level of concentration. I can be halfway through something and something else pops up, and instead of finishing what I'm doing, I will flick the screen to the other page and just see what that was.
Mate,
and then on that, and then I'll flick back.
But here's the best bit. You flick off something that you're enjoying doing as well.
Yes.
So you're enjoying reading something, you're halfway through it, or you're enjoying looking at something, and then before you know it, bang, you've moved on, and then you think, hang on, why have I just left that screen? What is it? Multitasking, which people often talked about multitasking being a good thing. Latest research, or maybe it's even a bit of historic research, I'm not sure, 47% reduction in productivity caused by multitasking. 47%, that's almost half. That's almost half. Yeah. The RAS brain, the reticular activating system, is dealing with, they reckon 5 to 10 years ago, was dealing with 60,000 stimuluses a day. That was only 5 years ago. So what is it at now? And we just can't cope. But for me, if you, it's this training of our mind and body. I get certain things are, we're born with certain conditions, or there's certain.
Yeah, but the circumstances make it worse.
Absolutely. And
if you're born with a let's just say, like, us, what we were called that back in the day was like just having a low attention span. And and kids tend to have a low attention span, and the common thought by parents would be that they'll grow out of that.
Yeah.
And I guess most of us sort of didn't really acknowledge our attention.
Yeah, and want that what your GCSE options were for, because then you picked the stuff that you enjoyed. We all had to do English, maths and science, which were all boring for me.
Yeah.
Some people loved science. I can't get my head around that. I like my accountant, by the way. He's a fucking great guy. I've been with him for years. I pay him well, and he's saved me a lot of money over the years. Why anyone would want to be an accountant, I have no idea, because maths is just fucking painful. But then that said, put me in front of a spreadsheet and I'll get a bit geeky about a spreadsheet.
It's my own money. If it's your own or your business.
So we've all got things we're interested in, haven't we? And with that in mind, then there's no doubt that the education system's arguably out of date, and because things move on. We've talked about, technology moves on, life moves on, but has education moved on? I'm not really sure it has. I mean, some schools in the UK now have been trialing mindfulness techniques and practices, which I think's a brilliant idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I believe they've gone really, really well. And guess how well the rollout into all schools has gone? It hasn't happened.
Wow.
I really believe that, certainly parts of the UK have got a real problem with knife crime. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
I believe putting combat sports into schools would help reduce that. Yeah. And it's such a cake mix. But the premise is, for us in the realms of this conversation, is that if you do the right stuff, you'll generally get the right response. If you don't do the right stuff, you generally won't get the right response.
What we're allowing, and this is where it gets really difficult when you say what you're allowing, right? Because there's an element of, who should make up all these rules, right? So the phone is becoming a big thing in the US where, there's a lot of a push for like kids to literally be banned from using.
Yeah, they've just started talking about that over here.
An age. Well, that's really fucking difficult to be like, well, what age should they be allowed to have a phone?
Yeah.
At what point does the parent go, well, like, we talked about it, I think maybe we talked about it a few weeks ago, I don't know, but like if your kids, parenting was very different back in our day when we didn't have phones. And I think about how much I must have used to stress my fucking parents out not coming home on time.
Yeah.
Like, parents can't go back to that and be like, well, now you can't have a phone until you're 15 and your 13-year-old is out and they don't come home and you don't know where they are. And you used to be able to just message and be like, hey, where are you? So a phone, as far as a communication tool, if you've got kids, is a really fucking good thing. We keep an eye on where they are. They can message you. They've got a problem. They can whatever. Makes life way fucking easier and way less stressful for the parent. So at what point do you draw the line and go, yeah, but kids shouldn't be using phones and playing around on phones and having all that attention taken away while they concentrate? And I think, I don't know what schools are like nowadays, but obviously kids are all sat in class with their phones in their pockets. I'm sat with my phone in my pocket now and it's buzzed. I don't know how many fucking.
Yeah. Oh, and it's linked to your watch and your watch is buzzing and all that.
A teacher's stopping kids get on the phone during the class. Like, I don't know. I've never been to school. I don't know, if this is something you ever, bring up or talk to Liam about, or he ever tells you. Like, I don't know, because a lot of teachers when we were at school were pretty fucking soft. And
they're not allowed to use their phone in school time.
Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't be. That's because
well, they get it taken off them if they get it taken off them till the end of the day if they're seen on it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing. I think that's what should be still happening in certain places, certain environments. And again, like you said, that would be then down to the parents to be like, you can only have your phone for a certain amount of things at a very young age. If we think that phones are a problem, it'll be interesting to see where that goes in the next sort of 5 years. A bigger deal of correlate certain things to phone usage. But I've got to talk to friends that good friends. And one that we were just talking about earlier, where within 2 minutes of a conversation, they're drifting off.
Yeah.
Within 2 minutes of conversation, their phone's out. I meet up with a lot of people and train with them and things like this. And some people with the phones are down. We train, no one touches the phone. I don't touch my phone when I train. Other people, every few seconds the phone's out. You're chatting away about something, but they're also reading something, and then they'll all cut you off and be like, oh, this such and such just messaged me or whatever. And you're like, well, I get it, but for fuck's sake, like, can you not concentrate?
And that's what the phone's designed to do, isn't it? It's I'm just checking my steps, or I'm just checking how me progress from last session or whatever. And so then it brings it about the conversation. Is that ADHD? Is it attention, or is that addiction? Or are they because those behavioural traits are the same if you withdrew drugs from somebody who had a drug problem, or if you withdrew painkillers from somebody who had an addiction to painkilling, so it's such a and then that brings about the thing about is it because we've got better testing again and better analysis and all that kind of stuff. But I just one of my favourite sayings is today's solutions have become tomorrow's problems.
Yeah.
And I just wonder. I mean, before I forget, I met a brilliant young man the other day who was this awards due was struggling at school and not doing well and diagnosed autistic and all that kind of stuff. And he'd found boxing and combat sports. Yeah. And he's found it's took him off the streets. It's corrected his behaviour. He's got mentors, father figures within the gym, and adversely because of that, it's also taken his grades up from his grades at school were really, really not. But his schooling environment's changed now. He's not in a conventional school. He's in he's educated within the boxing club and the boxing system and. Yeah. So it's such a complex thing, isn't it? It's such a complex bunch of challenges. But I just wonder if life would be a bit better for all of us if it was a bit simpler.
I just wonder. It could be simplified. Like for me, this is my take on it, and I might get some stick here for all of this, but the solution to most of these issues, and I'm going to put it back into like the I guess workplace maybe, or schooling or college, and I think the way I try to handle all this stuff is, you can tell me you have this thing, whatever it might be, whether it's some form of disability, whether it's some form of
like condition or something.
Well, whatever it is. And I can be, I don't even know what the right word is. I can be empathetic, I can be sympathetic, but the rules of engagement, let's say, the rules of my business do not change. Right? So, because it's difficult, like you can't be still like, I don't know if I hire a lot of people, well, try to hire a lot of people. CVs have changed so much, for instance. Now people don't have to put all the stuff they used to put on a CV anymore, because you're not supposed to discriminate. Makes it very difficult when you get a CV, and there's no age on there. Sometimes it's the pronoun, him, her, whatever fucking thing. You're a bit like you're waiting for this person to turn up, and you don't know.
Don't know what you're getting yet.
You aren't necessarily. I mean, you can maybe guess with the jobs, and they put the years in. And especially out here in California, it's a little bit crazy at the moment with all of this stuff. And I have no fucking issue with any of it. And I think, back in the day, the way a lot of this stuff was dealt with was you were just all treated the same. Right. And if you want to play the victim, that's on you. So if you want to use this thing and use it as an excuse for everything, that's on you. But the bottom line is the rules in my business are you're not late.
Yeah.
You're super attention and focused throughout the hour of the session.
Yeah.
You're doing all these things. And if you want to throw some other thing as an excuse as to why you're doing that, that's on you. That's not for me to manage, and that's not for me to treat you any differently than anybody else. Do you know what I mean? And that's not me picking and choosing who I hire. I'm like, okay, I can choose to hire this person, even if you tell me you have this issue. That's fine. But it's your job to manage that issue. It's not my job to manage your issue. And issue is the wrong word. I don't like sounding like it's an issue, because some people have things it's not their fault. But at the end of the day, I've dealt with so many people. I had a client, and he had I can't remember what the thing was. He was born, and he had one arm just literally doesn't work. It's half bent. It's really small, and it was something to do with when he was born. Where they had to go in with is it the claw? It's not a fucking claw, is it? But the thing where they pull the baby out.
Forceps.
And it fucked his arm up.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know, whether the guy's on medication or whatever, but he had the brightest outlook on life. He came into every session buzzing like crazy, and we were limited to fuck. We'd have to strap his hand to the bar so we could pull with the other arm, and form technique, everything was fucking off because of this thing. But it's never held it. I'm not saying it's never held him back. I don't know him super well enough, but I see his business online, and he's just this positive fucking guy. He sells fucking solar. He's got a massive team. Like, despite that issue, which he could have just used as an excuse for the whole of his life, he's one of the most positive guys I've ever met. Like, he's one of the guys that walks in the gym, and no matter how bad my day's going, this guy walks in and makes me feel like whatever the fuck I've got to whinge about.
Yeah.
Right, it makes my next hour better. Like, I'm like, if this guy can come in motivated, enthusiastic to train with literally one arm, then what the fuck have I got to worry about? And I think that's where I sort of sit on some of this stuff. I'm willing to understand stuff means and is, but if you're going to be in my environment, which is a business, then the rules that apply to these people apply to you as well, and that you can manage. Don't rock up late and be, it's because of this, and I now have to pander to what you're saying that is, which is where I feel society is going a little bit. The minute there's a way to use whatever it is that you are,
and I think
excuse, and I have to be careful of what
I think that lies the problems, mate, because you've got conditions such as ADHD and so forth like that. Which are genuine, no question. No question. But then what you've also got is culturally now, I think there's can be in society a bit of a victim culture. a bit of an entitlement culture,
Exactly.
a bit of a laziness.
Discrimination if you're not careful.
Yeah, and
Where I struggle, it's like,
yeah,
I'm not discriminating. I'm just
yeah,
saying this is what's best for my business and my clients, and you need
yeah,
people to deliver that. And if you can't deliver that because of whatever
yeah, or won't, can't or
going on
won't.
with you, then
Yeah,
that's not a discriminatory action by me. If I say this isn't going to work, that is unfortunately this type of job for what I need maybe isn't for you right now.
yeah.
You know, it's not for me. I can't put up with something that might cost my business just because I've got to be careful of, am I being discriminatory? Am I being, overly harsh on this person who's got this thing that I should maybe have to work around? Like, I just don't see that being a solution long term to anything. And the people that I know that have been successful despite any issue, after, people with disabilities, people with all sorts of things, has been their mindset. And this is not an excuse. And if I'm going to be in this environment, I will work as hard as everybody else. And my disability or my whatever it might be is for me to deal with. It's not to be put on another person, for them to deal with in a teaching, education, employment.
It's very difficult, and then dare I open up this kind of worms? I don't, maybe this might bite me in future. But then adding the offended in this world, and and that's something that I struggle to comprehend, really, because everyone's offended by everything now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it's hard to, and again, this really depends where you are in the world, and in some ways, I'm on the fence a little bit with where some of this should go, but it's very easy. I don't agree with bullying. I fucking hate bullying.
Yeah. Likewise, yeah.
Where's the fine line, right? Someone just has a bit of a joke and the other person's offended, they go to HR, and before you know it, it's this big fucking thing.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, who's the person that, like, it's very easy now, in some ways, like you said, to play the victim, to get someone else in a lot of trouble on purpose. If you want to use this thing, and this is the problem with it, if someone's truly being bullied in the workplace, then it fucking needs to be dealt with. And I don't put up with cliques in my gym. I don't put up with fucking bullies. I don't put up with any of that shit. Everybody respects each other, and I create that culture. That's on me. But at the same time, you've got to be so careful that if someone comes and chooses to use all these things now to get someone else in trouble, I'll be like, well, they said this, they did this, and this is a serious thing that then as an employer means I have to be seen to do something about it, not just because I think the issue was that big a deal, but you've got to be seen to not pick sides in these scenarios. I mean, you're probably thank fuck I don't have staff.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got admin staff, and that's it, mate. What I mean, other than that, but
because it becomes a minefield. I'm a dinosaur, so I have to be very careful not to put my foot in it, and be very careful to understand all this stuff. But then there's part of me some days is like, you know what? If I just actually ignore it and ignore the news and ignore all this fucking noise,
just do what you want to do.
All these certain populations, and go, I'm just going to go back to fucking old school. I'm going to treat everyone the same.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are, what you present with. It's not the point. You're here to be a personal trainer, and these are the rules of engagement. If you work, this is what I expect, and I don't care. Everyone will get treated the same. And I think managers have to, and educators and coaches and all this sort of stuff have to kind of have that line in the sand of like, all I am going to do is manage everybody by the rules that I want everybody to abide by, and the standards I want everyone to abide by. There's no excuses. The minute you start excusing certain reasons, you open yourself up to a problem, because you're like, well, you didn't, that guy did the same thing as me, and you didn't say anything to him. Why are you saying it to me? The minute that happens, you open yourself up to a fucking issue. So I've always, at the point in my career, even before all this stuff, have been like, I don't care how much I like you, don't like you, whatever. I've worked with some very big teams, 40-odd trainers, and they weren't all my best friend, but the bottom line is, and I got on with some better than others. Some of us even went out weekends, even back in LA Fitness. I'm like, I don't care how good of friends we are. If you're late, I'm going to have to fucking tell you just as much as maybe the person I don't, engage with outside of work.
Yeah.
You both get treated the same.
But do you know, though,
after some of this stuff.
Do you know that done it for me? It brings into question the word resilience, and I think resilience is being challenged in society now, or a lack of resilience, and we've got off onto all kinds of tangents here. So I thought I'd just sort of throw this out there, but sometimes in life you don't always get what you want. Sometimes in life, someone's a dick to you. Sometimes in life, you might get the hard rub of the green. Sometimes in life, someone might be discriminatory, might discriminate. I can't even say the word. They might discriminate against you, or, because of a certain attribute of you that they don't like. And it's fucking shit, right? It's absolutely crap. But it's also life as well. And sometimes you're going to experience great highs and things are going to go your way, and then sometimes you're going to experience massive lows as well. And I do worry about resilience, or a lack of. It's what partly what I teach for a living. And I don't teach based on what the books have said. I teach it based on life itself, and I do worry where it's all going to end up. I mean, funnily enough, to flip that saying that I said earlier, short-term pain can take you to long-term pleasure, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have your ass kicked every now and then. We've talked about this in jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or sparring, and I think there's lessons in it. And 25 years ago when I started, so it'd be about 24 years ago, but 25 years ago when I started my first ever job in a gym, and I realised after being there, a week or two, it wasn't actually a gym; it was more like a leisure club. And what I was doing was spending all day, cleaning and handing out towels and all. This was before LA Fitness, before we met.
Yeah.
Fucking hated it, and it was crap. And I was on crap hours and crap money and all that, but I needed to get a job, and it was the first interview that I'd been successful at. It was low-hanging fruit. There's no doubt about that. But I needed to get in and build my confidence and learn my trade. And the manager at that time, he was a fucking arsehole, and he used to bust me balls all the time. And the leisure club supervisor used to bust me balls. He was an arsehole. As I saw it, maybe they were trying to just develop me, and maybe they were just trying to push me, and perhaps I was lazy or whatever. I don't actually remember, but they made me go on a course, right? And you remember this because I used it in LA Fitness quite a lot. I used it twice in LA Fit. Once memorably, get me words out, in LA Fitness. You know what I mean. So it was all about how you look after the swimming pools and the water and the chlorine and the plant room and all that kind of stuff. And I fucking hated it. And I was like, oh, this is boring. And I remember being sat in this course.
Why the fuck have I got to learn this shit?
Yeah, in Stoke-on-Trent I had to go to this bloody shit, shithole place.
No one should ever have to go to Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah, exactly. But, I do some work with a company near Stoke-on-Trent. Very nice people, might have just had. Anyway, I learned all about swimming pools and how to look after them and the water and all this boring shit, right? And I thought it was really fucking boring. And then that meant that every single day and most weeks for the whole 2 years I was at this job, I was doing the fucking swimming pool all the time and all that, and it was fucking boring. Fast forward a year or two later, when I'm then at university and working at LA Fitness, which was just around the time we met.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they were about to restructure and get rid of all part-time staff, and I was only part-time. So I was going to get the bullet, and I needed some money just to pay me way through uni. And but also I wanted to be in a gym because that was what I wanted to do for work and study, and it all aligned, blah, blah, blah. And the reason I didn't get the bullet was because I knew how to work the plant room and the swimming pool. So that was number one. I'm in my gym the other day, which, everyone knows where I go, but I won't name it. But and I'm in the pool, and I go into walk past the baby pool and I walk past the jacuzzi and I hear something and I think that there's something not right, and the jacuzzi's got a funny noise coming out of it. Anyway, the young manager, he's one of the assistant managers, a lovely guy, but a little bit inexperienced. He didn't know. He's on shift. All the senior management have gone home. He sat over. There was a major problem with the swimming pool and their jacuzzi and everything, and they were all empty. And just because I'd learnt this 20 odd years ago,
Oh yeah,
I'd not done anything with it for fucking years, when this manager used to bust me balls and kick me ass and all that kind of stuff, I was able to run and grab hold of this guy and say, "You got a problem here in your pool."
yeah.
And sure enough, they did, and they were able to sort it and fix it and get maintenance on it and all that kind of stuff. And I get really well looked after in this place, as you know, in life and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying is, having my ass kicked 20 odd years ago, this wasn't a pivotal moment in my life the other day, but the LA Fitness one was. Every now and then, it doesn't do you any harm. We've had hard discussions when we work together sometimes. It doesn't do you any harm to get your ass kicked, does it?
No, and there's no such thing as, useless knowledge, right? You never know
Yeah.
what's going to be useful or, useful experience. Like you said, all sorts of things we did that we hated back in the day, but those things are very much lacking nowadays. So, you rock up and you go, yeah, I have experience in all of these things. I did all this. We, like you said, fucking being made to clean the fucking sauna out and
Yeah, all that shit, that you didn't want to do.
no, and but you just did it. You got on with it, and trying to, I guess, tie that in with everything we've just been speaking about. I think, there was no, real opposition to whatever you were told to do, and there was no making up sort of an excuse, and there was no being like, oh, I can't do this because of this, or yeah, I didn't do it because that happened, or whatever. It's like you just we all got treated the same, and I think
Well,
that's
you didn't challenge. You didn't challenge authority, did you? And I think sometimes that it is good to challenge authority, but then I think
100%.
I think there's times when you just shut the fuck up and do as you're told.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, finding that balance now. I totally agree. I think looking back, there was things that we just got told to do and we did, and we should have probably pushed back on a little bit because, like, what the fuck? I respect people now that have got their own opinion and they're not just super scared of the boss or or whatever, and they're like, hang on, I'm not sure this makes sense. I'm not sure this is fair. But I think what you've got to understand is if you're on that side, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this, if you're on the side of challenging authority, you better have a good argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
You better have a good reason as to why, especially, let's see, it's me. If you're going to sit here and say, I'm not being fair with you, or I'm not being this, or you think you deserve more, or you think, then come with a good argument, come with a good case, right? Because I'm probably not going to see it the same as you. And if I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But don't come in with an expectation that if you use a certain way to try and get your own way, which is generally going to be manipulation, that you're going to be right, or that I'm going to fall for that level of manipulation and give you what you want. I always go into anything if I think something's not fair, or I think I deserve this, or I should get this, or whatever. With, look, this is why I believe I'm worth what I'm worth. But go in being prepared. And this is how I've always done it. If I'm going to have these conversations, I'm prepared, first of all, to be told no.
Yeah.
And then I have to go away and decide what to do with that. And I think this is the problem, that instead of being prepared to think about all the outcomes that could happen, good, maybe you get what you want, maybe you were right, maybe you get an apology, whatever you went in for. But don't go in with an expectation that you're then going to be disappointed with.
Yeah, I'm right or nothing. Yeah.
I've got another option or another decision to make depending on the outcome of this, right? So if I don't let you off because of whatever the excuse is or whatever, and I say, look, I totally understand, I get it, but the rules are the rules and this is your warning, whatever, right? Now that's up to you how to deal with it. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm staying true to the rules of my gym, and and you knew the rules, and you broke them. If it's a really serious excuse or reason, then I'm not accepting your excuse and your reason. It is what it is. Just don't do it again.
Yeah,
whatever. And that's a small thing. And now you can decide if you don't like my response, and you want to be upset because you didn't get your own way. leave, don't be here, whatever whatever the thing is, but that's on you.
Yeah.
And I think all these circumstances that we have to try and teach people is the common denominator in how you deal with absolutely anything is you.
Yeah.
Individual. If you want to play the victim, if you don't, or whatever you're going to do, understand that you're going to be in a two-way thing, and someone might not fall for your bullshit. And if they don't, or you don't like the environment you're working in, you don't think it's fair, you don't think it's this, fine. Kick off a bit of a fuss about it, see if you can get things changed. But if you can't, move on and go somewhere else. If you don't think it's fair. And that's what these people will sometimes find out, usually, and I find out further down the line, is they realize that they'll go through 2, 3, 4 jobs and the same thing will have happened. I've sat down with interviewers and I've sat down, especially looking for boxing coaches, and they've all blamed their previous manager as to why they're not there. To me. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be your future manager, and you've just sat here and blamed that you didn't get on with your previous manager as a reason you left that job after 6 months, you left that job after 8 months, you left that job after 10 months. You understand, I'm not saying all managers are great, but it appears to be that you can't get on with being managed. Would be my synopsis of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the and you're right. We need to wrap up now, but it's that thing of being a trailblazer, being uniquely you, but then equally understanding that in certain roles we sometimes have to follow some rules, follow some boundaries. Sometimes we have to be a cog in a machine or a piece in a jigsaw or whatever that analogy, metaphor you want it is to be. It's that sometimes you can be that person that breaks the rules, that maverick, but then equally you've sometimes got to be that person that develops a bit of discipline, develops the ability to be managed, like you just said, the ability to be coached, and sometimes understanding you don't always get your own way, and you've got to shut the fuck up and just get on with it. Challenging, very challenging. Very challenging. Yeah, probably talk about it all day. We might go into all kinds of rants.
Yeah, and I think, look, to wrap up, just for people that have listened, like, especially mine, and I'm sure your opinions are the same, they are literally just that. It's an opinion, and it's when I talk about anything like this, it's really trying to come up with answers. Me saying I think it's this, this, and this isn't me necessarily going, okay, I'm never going to try and understand someone's issues. I'm never going to try and understand this. It's me trying to actually work out, I'm nearly a 50-year-old man dealing with 20 to 25-year-old people nowadays, and times have changed, and I have to adapt. I have to try and change, but how much? How much do I have to go with the swing without going, well, you have some good lessons from the past.
Yeah,
let's not ignore them.
Absolutely.
Move forward blindly. Look, if I ran my gym, the way gyms were ran in the 80s, I wouldn't fucking exist. But at the same time, there's lessons from both. I have to move with more modern day times and more modern day issues, which I may not fully understand. But I also have to stay true to me and myself and what I believe in, just as you do with your mentoring or with as a parent, is the same thing, right? You have to move with the times as a parent. Like you said, you can't be a parent like maybe your parents were.
Absolutely,
you can't go along with everything that's happening nowadays and not stay true to whatever you have.
Oh, mate,
right?
Mate, I find myself saying stuff and I think, oh, that's me mum and dad talking to me then. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of good lessons in it, so cool. Interesting, fascinating.
Yeah, let's wrap up because I know you've got to shoot off.
Indeed. I've got to shoot off, mate, because I've got no attention. No, I was going to joke about it, but someone will get offended. There we go. Fuck, if you're offended.
Well, we've gone off on a few tangents there. I don't know where the fuck that went. I'm going to be interested in this back because
absolutely.
We lost interest in whatever we were talking about.
No. Nobody could lose interest in us. We're far too charismatic for that. But as always, you're Jon and Ric. This is the Winning Edge podcast. Some subscribes, John. Yeah, give us the gambit there. I've caught him on the up. There we go. Caught him on the up. Go on.
Spotify, YouTube. They're the main three. We're on a few other bits and pieces, but those three. Fucking hell, you lost me there.
Yeah, caught you out there. See you later, guys. John, see you soon, mate. And everyone have a good day.